all right. It is time for Jason's thoughts. And I have my good friend Hassan with me tonight. Hassan, Happy New Year. Let's start right there. Happy
Happy New Year. Happy
2025 to you.
2025.
Yeah. Cheers to you, my friend.
Cheers to you.
Yeah, you're more fitting than me in my water. Good to see you, my friend, again, and so fitting that we're just on the cusp of the new year in January, and we're gonna talk a little bit about New Year's resolutions, right?
Absolutely. And first and foremost, anybody listening in to Jason, to you as well, happy first week of the new year. The first full week's been completed, and we're on the tail end and beginning the second week. So congrats to everyone. We're 1 week at a time until 2026 and beyond. Um, whether you're on LinkedIn, whether you're in social gatherings, I find the topic of New Year's resolutions to be divisive. If you look at it from a professional setting, sure, it's like goal setting. It's just a calendar year to do it, and there's a motive of, hey, achieve these goals, you get your promotions, you get your bonuses. But then there's the personal ones where if you don't do it, there's no real consequences to it.
Hmm.
So, I feel like there's this level of divisiveness. So, I guess first and foremost, I'd love to ask you, Jason, what are your thoughts on New Year's resolutions?
Hmm. Well, let's start with maybe a challenge that we had. You had kind of laid the gauntlet down to try to get me to challenge myself to 100 vlogs by the end of this year, and this being 89, clearly I failed. And guess what? No repercussions. So here we are. But teach his own for New Year's resolutions. I think the whole root of it is to have a goal, right? I mean, and some people it's like the never plan. It's just like it's a dream, not a goal, because they kind of don't ever put that date on it, like that stamp, right? It's always like the next month or the next month. And I think for a lot of people, New Year's, because you're shedding out the previous year. So whether it was negative or positive, you're putting it behind you, and it's a real definitive date. So it's like, okay, January 1, here we go. I'm gonna do X in 2025, and it gives them a good starting point. It's like a fresh beginning because it's a fresh year. It's all that stuff. Myself personally, I'd probably say I'm not a fan of necessarily putting that date, right? Because if I have the thought in my head, it's like, okay, action now. Like, figure out if there's any roadblocks or anything like that that I need to get through first, and then move the needle as fast as I can, because it's like, if I'm thinking about this in the summer, like I certainly don't want to wait until the New Year's. Like I want to get it going. So kind of that's my thought. I think a lot of people too put a lot of their health stuff onto the New Year's resolution. And how can you not if you've survived Christmas season with partying and drinking and lots of eating and turkey and ham and desserts? Like, you're not eating one dessert, you're having eight desserts. And you're not having it just one time during Christmas, you're probably having it every other weekend. So, like, health becomes a very staple of New Year's resolutions as well, which I think sometimes the marketing takes over. Like, resolutions can be way more than just your health and going to the gym. Um, and so it's kind of how I feel. I think it's good for some. It's not for me personally, but I think there's good value in it.
So, if I'm hearing you clearly, Jason, your value in New Year's resolutions is the virtue of goal setting. Like
Hmm.
you set a goal and it's attainable, and it's the beginning of that process. Your
Yep.
X, as we'll call it, is like the social utility, especially around the health focus of like, oh, now January 1st we begin to care. But if you're noticing this even Christmas holidays, why not begin it a bit sooner?
Yeah.
And going with that ick, what's another ick you have about New Year's resolutions? Like you mentioned a little bit on the commercialization of it, but do you think
Yeah.
there's a societal ick that you feel with it?
Oh yeah.
What are the other icks you have about this?
Well, I absolutely think that like look at the marketing, right? Like it almost is built around you have health issues or you're not healthy enough, or and now you need to go sign up for the gym and you need to go buy this gym equipment, and it almost takes away, it's like, oh, your New Year's resolution is to work out more in the next year. Like that's almost how it's canned now. Like Valentine's, like, oh, if you got a spouse or partner, well, you must buy roses. Well, now
Mhm.
your New Year's resolution is you must go to the gym. And that's not what it is, right? Like you said, the New Year's resolution is actually a time for you to set some personal goals that can be anything, right? And not necessarily have that canned vision like everybody else is doing it, so I gotta do it too. And it just happens to be going to the gym. And I don't think it's a bad thing beyond when I go to the gym and the gym is jam packed now in January, which is a very common meme, but is actually very factual as well. I don't hate those people because they are clogging up the gym, but hey, they made the effort, and I think that's great. But like, let's see you in 2 3 months, then I'll be really proud of you for getting there. So that's kind of my ick. I think it's become canned into one direction almost. If you really kind of follow any marketing and you're looking at your flyers and all that kind of stuff, that's all you see is gym stuff. So it's kind of, and protein and all that stuff. So
And I'll add one more note to that point before I go on to my next question for you. But one of the things I find hilarious, it's like these like smartwatch commercials. It's like, oh yeah, New Year's, you're back at it, you're running. I'm like, listen, it's still January. It is very cold. Like,
it's
you know what I
true.
mean? And like I saw one person running and they're showing a bit of snow outside. I'm like, but you're not wearing gloves. Your fingers are frozen, like they're falling off. And I don't know. Like for me, it's like, yeah, I like the workout regime, but it's
Yeah.
colder than Christmas.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. These are
Like,
actually the coldest months in Canada right now. It's like this is not the time you want to get out and try to that's a good point though, because you think about, you know, things that take you off your goals and sidestep you. It's cold. You're absolutely right. Like I don't want to go out running today. Like your motivation's going to be 10 times lower because you're like it's minus 30. Why would I go out and run in this? It's a really good point, you know?
especially
Chances
out
are,
west.
yeah, well, West would be a little bit better in BC and Alberta. Yeah, I walk to the gym. I'll walk at minus 40, but no running, no way.
And now, on this cadence of personal goals,
Hmm.
if you're comfortable sharing, what are some high level themes you're looking to cover for your 2025, if you have any? And when did these ambitions in your heart and mind begin, if not January
Yeah.
1st?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the thing, right? Like I do believe, you know, you don't have to always have big goals and lofty goals and take over the world goals. But I do think like if you don't have any, that you're kind of floating, right? And the opportunity there is like, okay, yeah, maybe you get through 2025, but then you look back and you don't really have anything prideful of. Like you survived the year, but like instead of putting in some goals to say, hey, like, okay, fitness, a little bit cliche, but hey, I wanted, by July to be at, you know, I want to lose 15 pounds, right? And by July. And when you get to that goal, then there's that opportunity for celebration. And so I think for me, for anybody, again, I'm not going to bash New Year's resolutions. I'm just going to say if that's what gets you to set a goal, good, do it, because then the year does become a little brighter than just surviving it and getting through it. For me, I've got a couple goals already. I was, we live in this beautiful country called Canada, and could be the 51st state in a couple of years. Who knows? Oh boy, I shouldn't have gone there. But anyways, I've done. I feel like I've done a decent job of traveling on the west coast and into Alberta. I've done a little bit in your neck of the woods in Ontario, a little bit in Quebec. But I've just we live in this beautiful country, and I want to explore more. So I've put some goals in place to in the summertime to actually explore the prairies. That's where I'm going to start. So that's a key one for me. We got a new vehicle. I've got a air mattress in the back. Go do some camping in some real rural places and try to find as many waterfalls as possible. So that's one. Doing a little bit more drawing and art. Embracing kind of a new role in the last 3 months has been a lot of learning. And whenever I'm kind of, you know, learning something new, my bandwidth and my tiredness, like I don't have any bandwidth, and I get really tired and down. And so, just trying to diversify some of my artwork and try some new things and some different things into 2025. So, instead of my traditional superheroes, I'm trying to get into animals. So I'm starting with a tiger, and that's and going into more pencil work and stuff like that. So those are a few of mine, but enough for me. I want to hear yours as well, because then we can hold each other accountable as well.
Yes, absolutely. I'll speak to both your goals before I speak to mine.
Mm,
The travel, absolutely beautiful and wonderful, man. There's a beauty when you explore rural parts of Canada. I was supposed to say
yeah.
Ontario, of Canada, right? I think one of the things you get locked in at times, and I'll speak for myself here, is that being an Ontario resident, you think this is Canada, like you
Yeah.
think you've seen it, but like me and my buddy Taz, we have this tradition where every year we have to explore one new part of Canada, and we do it
Oh.
via like drive. So like if it is
Mm,
Ontario, we'll go like 6 hours like up and like okay, this is the spot we're gonna be at today. Or if we've been to like a
nice.
notable city like Kingston, what are
Yeah.
these rural pockets outside of it? So we've been like Athens, Ontario. We go to these little mom and pop and antique shops. Like there's a whole enthusiasm we have towards it. Last year we were in this rural town in Quebec. We didn't speak a lick of French, but ChatGPT was
Mm,
incredible because I would just
mm-hmm.
speak to it and have it translate it for me. So whoever's investing in Duolingo, just get the free version of ChatGPT. You're fine. Um, no, I jest, but it was this incredible experience. You meet new people, and like you get to shut down any thoughts you might have. Oh, West Coasters are this, and rural
Yeah.
French Canadians are this. But like when you get out of your own way, it's lovely. And the
Yeah.
East, Jason, I love the East Coast. Like I would
Yeah.
live there in a heartbeat. Like if you told me you had 6 months to live, where do you want to like spend your final days? It would be St. Andrews, New Brunswick. Like it is.
Gonna mark it down.
Like I've been there. I've been to Halifax, PEI. Like we did a trip. We post high school. We just drove down there, but I will get into that because I'll steer away from this conversation. But
Yeah.
highly, highly recommend. And lastly, your artwork.
Yep.
It's incredible how you're setting this year to be the year of evolution. I'm like, this is the
Mm-hmm.
thing I do, but I want to explore this area that you may have done before, but maybe you're not
Yep.
like so consistent with. Like you've done Catwoman, but it'd be nice to actually do like an actual tiger, right? Because it's a totally
Yeah.
different feature.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that sort of leads into some of my personal goals.
Ah.
I want to give a shout out to a old friend of mine from McMaster University. Her name's Sylvia. I won't pronounce her last name because it's very Polish. I think it's
Yeah.
Kiewiatkowska.
Yeah.
Sorry for butchering it, Sylvia. In her tradition of her family, they say whatever you do December 31st will impact your January 1st. So she's
Mm-hmm.
like, if your New Year's goal is to work out, spend time with friends, and sleep early, you do that the 31st rather than waiting for the ball to come down. So it's
Ah,
like you
smart.
start your year the way you want it to. And she
Yep.
had this incredible vision board. And I was like, oh, like, what do you want to do? She's like, oh, I want to like get better at swimming and da da da. And it was this very clear passion-based board. And I asked myself, I'm like, what was I passionate about in 2024?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to build off from that. So one of those passions was like learning these AI tools, like
Right.
and what like I loved. I wrote a book for my daughter, and
Yeah.
it's her favorite book. We read, like, she now reads it front to
Aw.
back, and now I'm like, I've always wanted to make a movie. Like I've just always wanted to make a movie. So I found this one software where I made like a trailer. And I was like, oh, have dinosaurs in Middle Earth being ridden by wizards from Harry Potter. Like just putting everything I love into one space. And it made
Hmm.
a 2-minute trailer, and I was like, you know what? What if I actually put some real care and thought into this of actually storyboarding, doing voices, and like let's see, like what if this was the thing, right? It doesn't have to be like
Yeah.
a Spielberg level production, but
Yeah.
just like hey, I made this little thing, right? It could be like a 10-minute movie or whatever, but that's one of the goals, just feeling that passion and taking it to the next level. Um, Mocktailing. 2024 was a year of zeros, right? Like, going through layoffs and whatever it was. I was like, man, I need a beer. Like, I need something, But like, you
Yeah.
also wanted to, like, like keep your morals and values, at least if they are not drinking. So me and my
Yeah.
buddy would just go to this local Irish pub in Milton, where it's close to near where I live,
Yeah.
and they'd have like it's like a nice green carpeting. It felt like an Irish pub, and you're just drinking like a nice Corona Sun brew, and you're like, okay, this is actually quite nice.
Nice.
There's nothing more Canadian than having a beer with a friend. But
Yeah.
now I'm like, let's take it to the next level. And so my goal this year is to get really good at cocktailing. So I began
Mm.
January 1st with espresso martinis. Don't drink them at night because you'll be wired
No.
like. uh, I'll give you some context. It's like I didn't have any zero Kaluas, so I had cold brew coffee mixed with like non-alcoholic rum,
Yep.
and then I put espresso shot on top of that. So it's like coffee and espresso. So you're wired.
Oh,
But
that
those
sounds like an
are,
Americano. Ooh. Ooh.
yeah, that was
Yikes.
hefty.
Yeah.
Um, but those are my goals, man. If I had to summarize it in one term, it would just be elevating passions and making time for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good, in reflection, that's exactly where my things are, right? Like I've always loved art and I do it, it's just a passion and it's a hobby, but to elevate it was your wording on it, right? Which I think is like it doesn't have to be necessarily something new either. It can just be amplified. Same with travel, like my love for local travel, aka driving. I'm not a flight guy, but driving and exploring the wilderness and finding waterfalls in these beautiful places. I've been doing that before, and I can tell you, I found a lot of them in the West. But it's like change the environment, like again, like you said, like you immerse yourself into these areas where you're not the expert anymore in the area, so you're a true novice and explorer, right? And so you're doing what you love in hunting for waterfalls or going camping, but now it's in a new environment where you're having to acclimatize yourself and then find these new areas and probably find some bad areas too. But I think that's really cool. I think it's kind of nice when your resolutions or your goals are just things that amplify your life and that you're passionate about. Certainly, if you set goals that you don't love and you don't really like again, I hate to always go back to fitness, but I hate running. I just
Yeah.
there's nothing more in life that I hate more. I can walk for miles, but I hate running. Now, if I set a goal that I'm going to do a 10 kilometer run, I know I'm gonna fail. Well,
Yeah.
maybe I won't, but I'll hate every step of it. And when you do hit roadblocks or you get a sore knee or you roll your ankle when you're running, guess what? Chances are I'm gonna give up because it's not something I'm truly passionate about, right? So you bring up a lot of good points when setting goals too.
And I'd love to dive into that next little space on roadblocks because if we
Mm-hmm.
think of it, right, like let's say your New Year's resolution is I want to lose 15 pounds. I
Yep.
want to skydive this year. I want to do XYZ. You have these beautiful goals, but then it's also like I can skydive anywhere between May and September. Those are the windows. Oh, work got busy. Oh, this happened. That. Oh, wait, it's gone. Like some of
Yep.
these goals we set ourselves up with are
Yep.
sometimes so time bound that you can't achieve them, or
Correct.
they're so broad that in theory you could lose 15 pounds effective starting September, which in some cases is a guy motivation of, hey, the year isn't out. You haven't lost that time. But in saying
Yep.
that, because you were so nonchalant with it, what was the point of it to begin with? Because had you been disciplined with it, it's like, oh, I
Yeah.
lost it in February, and now it's like, okay, now like what? How can I take this to the next level rather than waiting the following
Yeah.
year when you're probably
Yeah.
resetting your 15 pounds because you gained in Christmas anyway? So
Always the way.
when we think of these roadblocks, Jason, what are your thoughts on how do you prepare yourself to anticipate for roadblocks without like demotivating yourself to having the goal? Because
Yeah.
if you look at it, skydiving, incredible goal if that's something you want to do. Losing weight, incredible goal if that's what you want to do.
Yep.
But there's also like that disciplined push of pushing past those roadblocks. Sorry.
Right. Yeah.
So how would you anticipate if you had to do a proper New Year's resolution?
Yeah.
How would you prepare yourself for those roadblocks?
Well, I think the first place to start is really going and looking at the goal and saying, is this realistic? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, I'm setting like, is it even possible, right? To lose X amount of weight in this amount of time, and how? Like, what are you doing? And analyze, right? It's like, okay, well, 80% of losing, and being fit is diet and 20% is working out. So if you're like, well, I'm just going to go to the gym 5 days a week, but I'm going to eat everything that I eat currently, you have to do the research to figure it out that this isn't going to compute. Even if you set July as a goal, it's like, well, I'm partying with my friends on the weekend. I eat junk food or I eat out. Chips is my definitely my Achilles heel. Late at night, not good combos. So you're never going to make that happen. So I think starting off with doing your research on what you want to do. So like skydiving, you've done it. I think I recall. I would have no idea just knowing that I'm not going to do it in January because it's too bloody cold, but I would have no idea what the time frame was. So I'd be like,
Mm.
okay, I think that's a really cool idea. Let me do some research and go online. I think that's the first part. I think the second part, no matter your goal, is like have baby steps in the goal. Like, so one month check in with yourself where it's like, okay, I had a goal that, I was going to read 4 books in the first month. And now I'm going to have a real self check and I go, I didn't even finish one. Okay, so was my goal too lofty to hit 36 books by the end of the year? Probably. Let me adjust. Let me not beat myself up for it, but what was my problem? Oh, well, you know what? I was sleeping in too much, or I left the book reading till the Sunday when I had a little bit of time and I wasn't really reading it. And then I lost interest. Like, so if you set some little markers for yourself and whatever it is your goal is, so you can reflect on it and just be real with yourself, like hopefully you don't, like my example of hating running, right? Like if I actually wanted to set that as a goal, I would do it, but I would give myself some space, some wiggle room, and not beat myself up, and then reboot myself at that touch point of a month or 2 months or whatever and say, hey, you know what? Am I really putting my all into this? No, yes, why did I pick this as a resolution? Or like, let's go. Like, you know what? January is a tough month. It's cold. It's dark. It's wet in a lot of places. It's not a lot of fun. You're getting your Christmas bills coming in, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Maybe February is the time to really start this and kick back up. And then, yeah, like, I mean, roadblocks are going to happen. That's just part of life. And it's a matter of like, is this something that is worth it, or am I going to put extra pressure on myself and stress myself out and actually like make myself ill from disappointing myself in not hitting this goal? Like at that point, is it worth it too, right? I think sometimes we put too much pressure on ourselves. So just having the foresight to plan for what ifs, set some timelines in along with your goal for reflection, and adjust as needed, or shut it down and just move on, wait for the next year.
Yeah,
As they
there's
say.
so many incredible takes on that, and I love the first and foremost the mapping it out, right?
Hmm.
It's like okay, like it's I have a goal. I wanna, like let's take traveling. I want to fly to Greece this year. It's like okay, well, January 1st, it's on your phone, whatever. Just map it out. How much would the
Hmm.
flight cost to go there? What are the
Exactly.
resorts and stuff there? Right. And
Yep.
I'm like, oh, it's actually a lot cheaper than I thought it was. Okay, let's begin like a plan. Or if
Yeah.
it's too expensive, it's like, okay, well, where else would I like to go next? And I'm going to ask this as a final question coming up,
Yep.
but I'll save that for a moment. The other thing I loved with what you said was like those baby steps. It's like,
Yep.
okay, it's February. Why weren't we there? Okay, let's adjust and pivot. And lastly, being real and giving yourself grace. It's
Yeah.
like you're not being audited by the government. You know, like no one has a gun to your head. It's not like you don't do this, God forbid
Yeah.
anything's gonna happen to you. It's quite literally just a, hey, you couldn't hit it, you couldn't hit it, you know? And
Yep.
if it means that much to you, find ways you can hit it. And if it doesn't mean
Yes.
that much, maybe put it on the back burner. And the last piece I'll mention before I ask my final question to you, Jason, the
Yeah.
book reading. God help me, Jason. And Agnes, if you're listening to this, I apologize. Agnes Roeder is an incredible reader. She's always posting on LinkedIn
Yes.
her books.
I know. It's
God help
crazy.
me. I don't get it. Like like you work hard all day, you put your brain to use, and you think, huh, what's relaxing? Like putting more. I'm a TV guy, man. Like, give me a show, I'm there. But like, that's
Yeah, I don't know how she does it. I don't know how a lot of people do it. I I'm very transparent in my book reading. I don't do it. Like
that.
it's like the last book I read, it's like actually Mel Robbins got a new book out that I probably will pick up this year, and she would be the exception to the rule. But that'd be like one book in a year, where yeah, Agnes is like I don't know, it feels like 8 books a week. I don't know how anybody does that. It's very impressive to me. Not something I can do.
Lifetime member of Indigo. Lots of love, Agnes. All right,
Yes.
final question to you,
Yeah.
Jason.
Yeah.
You've captured on something very incredible here, and this is, I think, encapsulates the whole theme of goal setting, not just in New Year's, but at any point of the year, which is the why.
Hmm.
You know,
Oh yeah.
and I don't want to get too off topic with this, but I remember, like, I dropped out of university because my why didn't get me through those tough moments. It's like, why am I really here? And you
Yeah.
find that with goal, and I guess it ties in with goals as well, because when you're in university, the goal is to get your degree,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like in 4 years, and then when
Yeah.
you're there, you're like, huh, like, why am I here? Why this school? Why like this? It is it sustainable? And even on New Year's Day, asking yourself, why am I studying this goal now? Why is this important now? Why is it like so? I love the concept of the why, and we can even do a whole session on why,
Oh
just
yeah.
that one
Easily.
incredible word.
Yeah.
But for sake of getting through episode 89,
Yeah.
um, well,
Yeah.
I'll ask you for the goals you have of traveling out east, of
Yeah.
upping your artwork. What is your why for
Yeah.
this?
Well, I think even when you talk about like your degree was your why, you could have gone a little bit further and said your why was to be, you know, have a home, have a wife, have a child, like I have a career that allows you X, Y, and Z. That's more of like a feeling, a thing, an experience in life, versus like the piece of paper, right? I mean, part of that might be it, but um, why is critical. Like, I think that's where a lot of times people fail on their goals is because like if they haven't really discovered their why, and we could, Simon Sinek's start with why it is so diverse in how that can go from a personal to a business, all that kind of stuff. But like again, I think it kind of comes back to my point of like marketing and working out in the new year, right? It's like, okay, well, the Joneses are all doing it, so I'm overweight, and I guess that's probably an easy thing for me to do, so I'm gonna go do it. You missed your why, though. Why are you doing it, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, I'm a middle-aged guy, I'm overweight, I've got health issues in my family, and I wanna see my kids have kids and get married and be a grandfather or something like that, which scares me as I say that out loud. But like that's going to propel me to get, when the days are hard and the days are tough, or you're behind reading your books, or maybe you haven't picked up the pencil in a month. Those when I can reflect back to the why, that will propel me back through, right? And so I think it's absolutely critical in any goal that you have. Like, figure out what is it that you're truly doing it for. Is it the accolades? Is it to say you did it? If you can find something that's really meaningful to you personally, not what other people think, just like what it means to you, those roadblocks will be less. The tough days when you're behind or you're down or you rolled your ankle and your knees sore, you'll find you will push yourself through because you've discovered what it is you're doing it for in the beginning. So I think that's why Simon Sinek says start with why, because it's a great place to be. Like, why do I want to go to the East Coast? Because I've explored a lot of Canada, but I think there's more to be explored. And you know, when I pass one day and I'm on my deathbed, I want to reflect back and go, yeah, I went and saw coast to coast this beautiful country I lived in for my entire life
Mm.
versus why didn't I go to the like East Coast? Can someone like take me in my wheelchair out to the East Coast like right now? Like I'm not young enough. I'm not going to be able to enjoy it enough. Like like and so I think when you reflect on it that way too, like the end goal, like you want to make sure you hit these things so when you can and because it's all about the experiences in life and what you make of it. So
And why your art? Why
mm.
pivot from superheroes to animals? What is that why?
Not just animals, but partially because my wife doesn't like all my superhero artwork, but she's probably tired of it more so. I think she thinks it's okay. No, I mean, that's true, but kidding aside, I think it's kind of cool. Like, I love nature. I love animals. I've got a tiger on my body and a tattoo. It's huge. So, like, I'm like, kind of cool to go down an animal path, right? And then from animals, it's also like maybe a baby step of like doing nature, right? Like
Mm.
painting trees, drawing trees, and then maybe that goes to portraits, like oil paintings and stuff like that. To me, I've been doing the same thing for so long. It take a little baby step, try something different, and you'll probably, I'm hoping that this builds up more and more to a portfolio that's just for myself and something I love doing.
It's a beautiful wine, man, and I can also see, if you end up nailing this tiger thing sooner, and you end up going to East Coast, and you go to Peggy's Cove out in Nova Scotia, and
Yeah,
you're looking at the Atlantic Ocean, man, like that would be a great moment to set up an easel, and
there you
hoping it's
go.
not too windy, but
Right? Those are the things like and to refine my skill to try something a little bit different. Yeah, like maybe I can get into something that I've never done before. And yeah, you just never know, right? So yeah, it might end up that I bring an easel.
no, you know what, Jason, honestly, that's incredible. I think I love the flow of where we have gone with this from like the icks of New Year's Eve. Like, why did we not like it? And what's the virtue of it? And how do you actually see it through? And if we had to condense this entire chat with you, it's, you know, the ick shouldn't be built around marketing or societal pressure or external pressure. It should be developed from something within
Yep.
and a full desire. And in order for us to achieve what we want to achieve this year, we have to take baby steps, be real with ourselves, and ground us in our why. And 2025 and any year thereafter will be ours. So, did I
Yeah.
miss anything in that?
No, I think you've paraphrased it perfectly. I would say there's nothing missed at all. The only thing
Absolutely,
would
Jason.
be accountability. If you had to, you could, as an added, like if you're someone that's maybe not self-driven or lacks a little bit of motivation, you could put some accountability pieces in there. Write it down so other people can see, or write it down so you can see it yourself, and make it a bit of a challenge, right? Goal with the challenge. Is good, or bring in some other people that are on the same page, right? That want to try
Mm.
something different, group with some friends that want to travel more or want to work out or want to do art or whatever it may be. I think That just popped up on top of my head, but that's maybe the only things I would add.
And I would conclude on just on the why piece of like if anybody is, and I found this to be beneficial for myself. So, this only from me. I don't have the answers. If this doesn't work for you, please feel free to leave it. But I find if the why is rooted in a core value, it really
Yeah.
amplifies the doability.
Ah, so good.
It's like why do I want to travel? It's like you mentioned on my deathbed, I
Yeah.
don't want to say I didn't. Like there's a core value of living life, right?
Mm,
Like if you're wise, I want to lose weight. Well, why? Because I don't like the way I look. Why?
hmm.
Right? And it's like,
Yeah.
is it you're like for me, I'll look on January 1st. I'm like, good God, man, Ferreros were on discount. This is brutal. I'm gonna work out. But then
Uh,
a few weeks later, your diet's back to normal. I'm like, ah, I guess I'm okay.
yeah. Yeah.
But like, so those why quickly collapses. But like, if the
Yeah.
why is I want to be stronger for myself, so I can lift my kid up and not be exhausted at the park, like that pushes it so
Yeah.
much more forward. So, um, my whys for my objectives was quite literally the core
Yeah.
value of just passion. Like don't let it go. Like if you like there's one thing to do stuff you don't like eating broccoli or reading. But it's like if you're not even doing the things you do like, then what are you doing with your
Yeah.
time?
Totally.
So that definitely, Jason, like that's I love this piece with you, man, and
Yeah.
I
Me too.
feel a sense of appreciation for goal setting now.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, this is a great conversation, and I think we can challenge ourselves. Into well, now we've held. We're gonna put this on YouTube, so I mean, all 75 followers will hold us accountable to our goals for 2025, perhaps.
Oh,
But we'll
that would
also
be a
hold
great
ourselves accountable.
That'd be a great way to continue these segments, right? As we get onto these episodes that do climb up, this could be like a thing of, hey, episode 100, did you achieve?
Yeah,
We'll have to,
there we
you,
go. Maybe that's the one. Maybe
you know
that's
what?
the one.
Episode 100, you'll have like a new picture, and I'll have a new recipe list of cocktails, and have to show my storyboard of where I'm at. So that can be like
Deal.
that pause to celebrate 100. So
Deal.
please
Love it.
hold us accountable for this.
Yeah, there we go. Love it, love it, love it. Hassan, thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
thank you.
Jason.
This is a really good conversation, as always.
Absolutely.
And please, if this is your first time watching Hassan and I, again, I would still challenge the name of the channel, but please go back into some of the history. We've had a lot of great conversations in a lot of different areas. 2024, cheers, my friend.
Cheers.
I think I'd like to say we thrived, although sometimes it maybe feels like we survived. I still think in some of our life goals and ambitions and the challenges, I feel like 2024 we thrived and will continue to thrive because we got each other's backs and we got our own backs, and we got good friends and family around us as well to support us in everything that we do. And so again, cheers to 2025, and 2024 is in the books.
Absolutely. Cheers,
All
Jason.
right.
Thank you for your thoughts.
Cheers, Hassan.